because it updates to the new points. And but usually when you have an application where you grab an object and move it around like this, it's usually like in the form of a hand or something. So now we're going to get into how we can reset the cursors and make them look the way we want, because we want our application to look cool. Alright, so what you're going to need to do is call in this nice little method called reset cursor rex, and this will get called automatically, and it will just run whatever code is in this method. So what you're going to need to do initially in this method is to call self to the NS view. You're just going to call discard cursor rex, and this will discard any cursor rect that is the current cursor. But if there's no cursor set after it, it'll just set the cursor to the default cursor, which is this pointer cursor. But, oh, I forgot, we gotta come back into the interface file and call in, or make some NSCursor objects. Let's call this cursor. We'll just make two. Oops. Alright. Now what we're going to do is come into here and we're going to set those. And all you do is you bring in your object, set it, and you call in NSCursor, and we're going to do the open hand cursor. And this will return an open hand cursor object to be placed in the cursor object. And to put this to the screen, what you have to do is call self, the NS view, and you add cursor rect, which this argument takes a NS rect. And what this is you're adding the cursor rect to whatever rect. So what we want it to add it to is to any time it's inside the NS view. So you're going to call self dot bounds, and this will make it to where this cursor will be added to anywhere inside the NS view. And then the next argument is just your cursor that you made. And so now that we have set that up, we'll just run this. Right now it's a pointer, but when you bring it into the window, it turns into a hand. And now you can do this with a nice little hand cursor. But usually when you click down, it turns to a closed hand. And it's not always an open hand. I mean, you want it to look like it's actually grabbing it. So now we're going to take our second NSCursor object, and we're going to set that to be the closed hand cursor. And we have to add it to the screen as well. So add cursor rect self bounds the cursor to. Alright, so now that's added. But you kind of have to, this is where we need to specify when we want the second cursor to appear and when we want the first cursor to appear. So what we need to do is call in this next method, which is void mouse up. And the only thing that we're going to put in this is we're going to set whenever the mouse is up, we want the first cursor, which is the open hand cursor, to be set. And this method set just sets the cursor as the current cursor. And that's pretty much it for that. And now we're going to come into the mouse down and say whenever the mouse is down, we want the oops, oh, I did that. The second cursor to be set. And so now that should work. So when it's up, it's an open hand, and when it's down, even when it's being dragged, the mouse is still down, so it keeps this second cursor as the object. So now when we come in here and run our application, it's an open hand, and when you click down, it turns to a closed hand, even when you drag it around. So now we have a nifty little application that has a lot more flair than a few seconds ago. And so now it's a closed hand when you push down, open hand when you're up. But say you have an image of something you want to be the cursor, and you don't want the default, or not the default, the cursors that come inside this framework, which you can actually go into the app kit, go into the NSCursor right here. You can see all of these little cursors that Apple gives you that you can just mess around with. But say you don't want this and you want to add your own. Well, there's this nifty little method right here called initWithImage, new image, and the hotspot. And so we're going to come into our interface file. I'm going to add one more cursor. So custom. And so now we have our custom curse, and we are going to come over here. And the way you deal with a custom curse object, since you have to initialize it, or allocate and initialize it, you have to set it up a little bit different, because these are just kind of not allocated, so they don't stay around as long. They're weak references. And so you have to set it up just a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and erase these. Erase this. Get rid of that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is come into the reset cursor rex, and we have our self discard cursor rex. So now we're going to do our custom curse equals the NSCursor alloc, and then init with image. And just for simplicity's sake, we're going to just use the pick image that we defined earlier. And the next thing is hotspot, and the argument accepts an NSPoint. And what the hotspot is just wherever the action takes place on the cursor. So like with this pointer cursor, the action takes place at the top left at the tip of the arrow. So when I click on this, it happens because the action took place at the point of the arrow. So but the way the origin works for the images is a little bit different than the regular frames like on NSView and stuff. So the way this is going to work is you need to make an NSPoint, NSMakePoint, and it's just going to be 0, 0, because that signifies the top left corner of the image for NSCursor images. And so then we're just going to pull in our NSPoint and do that. Then of course don't forget to add your cursor. And so now that's added, and to set it, we're going to set it to be whenever it is up. So custom cursor set, and this is where it's a little bit different when you set the weak referenced NSCursor objects to the strong referenced ones. The weak referenced ones you kind of have to make it every time, or I guess initialize it every time, whatever you want to say. So when you come into mouse down, we want to keep that closed hand cursor for whatever reason. So what we need to do is call self discard cursor rex. So it will discard this custom curse for this motion, whenever the mouse is down. And then we need to pull in our cursor object, and we are going to set it to the closed hand cursor. And then, of course, you have to add it to the screen. Alright, and so now this should work. We have our custom curse allocated and initialized. We have it set to whenever the mouse is up for it to be set, and then whenever the mouse is down, we have our closed hand cursor to be added to the screen. So now when we come in here and run this, right now our hand is a pointer, but when we come in, it turns to our image that we set it to. And now whenever we click, it is a closed hand, and then when we come back up, it turns back to the image. So you can just mess around with that, add whatever image you want and all that. And as you can see, the hotspot is right at the top left, because whenever the hand moves, the top left is touching where the NS image origin is. So that is just how that works, and it's pretty neat. And I just wanted to make a tutorial on how to edit the cursors because I hadn't seen one on YouTube yet. So I hope y'all enjoyed that, and I hope you got something out of it. So